This is 90.9 WBUR. I'm Sharon Brody. Governor Healey appointed a new economic development secretary this week, Eric Paley, a venture capitalist and former entrepreneur. He'll have a lot of tough decisions to make at a time when the economy is going through some pretty big changes. Scott Kirsner, a columnist with our editorial partner MassLive, has one clear message for him: bet big on manufacturing. Scott Kirsner, good morning.
Good morning.
Why bet big on manufacturing?
Well, number one is that these new economic development secretaries generally have so many issues and they spread themselves way too thin. They're trying to serve the fishing industry in New Bedford, and they're trying to think about biotech here in Boston. And so let's be thematic. And manufacturing is one of those industries that we have been watching erode for 100 years. And it's an industry where our interests, which is having more jobs and more economic output, are totally aligned with Trump administration priorities. So I think there could be a nice Venn diagram overlap here between what Massachusetts wants and what the federal government wants. And so let's play that hand of cards for the next couple of years.
What are the problems with manufacturing in Massachusetts right now?
There's no workforce. There aren't enough people who want these manufacturing jobs. The cost of energy is really high in Massachusetts. Access to funding or capital, if you want to build or expand a factory, can be really hard. The permitting process, we all know about NIMBYism in Massachusetts. So you want to double the size of your factory or you want to build a second factory, you're going to spend 4 or 5 years getting the approvals. So there really are a lot of headwinds here, but we do have manufacturers in Massachusetts, and I visited a lot of them. So it is possible. And I just think we need to turn up the dial and give it more support.
Now, in your column a few days ago, you said that in Massachusetts, we don't do enough to market our successes. So could you just enlighten us? What do we manufacture here, and what should we be highlighting?
There was a great ad campaign, if people remember Governor Ed King. They had an ad campaign called Make It in Massachusetts.
Make it in Massachusetts. Everybody make it. You can make it.
Back then, we were making Polaroid cameras. People remember we were making a lot of computers and mini computers. But things we make now, I mentioned Amazon's warehouse robots. Companies like Moderna and Alnylam manufacture vaccines and drugs here. I always like to remind people that there's a candy factory that still operates in Cambridge that makes every junior mint eaten in the world. It comes from Central Square. So there is a lot of stuff, high tech and low tech, that can be made here. And I think we need to really focus on that, and that we could win potentially under this new economic development secretary.
In an overall sense, what do you think we should expect from Eric Paley once he takes over the role of State Economic Development Secretary in September?
Well, I hope that this is not going to be a really short tenure where he is in the role for a year or two and, goes back to his life as an investor, checking off the public service box. Eric Paley is an investor who puts money into startups, period. And, investors like that are pretty impatient. And so I do think you could expect maybe a little more energy, a little more entrepreneurship from this agency. That kind of started with the previous secretary, Yvonne Howe, who also came out of the investing and startup world. Paley understands manufacturing because he's funded startups. He's been on the board of startup companies that have made things largely overseas. And so I think he understands the reasons why, for cost reasons, for efficiency reasons, people manufacture in China. And I just think we need to try to reverse that tide.
Scott Kirsner, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sharon.
Scott Kirsner is a columnist with our editorial partner, MassLive. You can read his full column on masslive.com. And we will talk with Economic Development Secretary Eric Paley himself and ask how he plans to grow the Massachusetts economy. You can hear that this afternoon on All Things Considered on WBUR.